my name is Kyler, and today I'm going to show you how to install a PCV delete kit plus an oil catch can combo from Ross Racing. Big shout out to Matt from Ross Racing for sponsoring my build. He hooked up a little bit. I still paid nearly full price because you have to support small businesses. He's out here doing the engineering, doing all this stuff. It's not a really high ticket item, like not many people are buying these systems, so we gotta support him. Make sure you check out his website. I'll leave it in the description below. But before we get into the install, I'm gonna talk about how the PCV system works in our Gen 1 B58 motors and why you would potentially want to do this mod or combination of both the catch can and the delete system. So when your engine is running and the pistons are moving, there's little slots that allow airflow to move throughout. Excess air and gases ends up going into your crankcase, building up crankcase pressure. So the engine needs a way to bleed off this excess pressure and gases, and so that's where the PCV comes in. PCV stands for positive crankcase ventilation. So its job is literally to relieve that pressure buildup in the crankcase. So if there weren't any emission laws, then there would probably just be like a hole or a way for the fumes to go up through the cylinder head and out the valve cover to vent the fumes straight into the atmosphere. So the PCV basically recirculates these gases back into the motor and ends up burning them off internally. So I'm no expert, but you can check out Curran417, who did a very detailed video on this topic of how the PCV system works in our B58s. So I'll leave a link to that video in the description below. So basically the gases that come out of the crankcase contains like an oil vapor, and so that's what a catch can would potentially be catching, is that oil vapor blow-by. Because this oil vapor would leave oil residue that can coat your turbo, boost pipes, intake manifold, intercooler, causing your engine to run less efficiently in the long run. So I actually have experience with PCV issues with my car, and so let's get into why it is an issue in the first place with Gen 1 B58s. So the issues are more prone to happen once you tune the car because you're running more boost and more horsepower than the engine was designed in stock form. And that main issue is a rubber diaphragm that sits underneath the PCV cap. And what happens is that can crack or tear over time, and more boost puts more pressure on that part, which can make it rupture or tear faster. And then, when your car is tuned, it results in more blow-by because there's more buildup in the crankcase. So while it shouldn't be like a major amount of oil blow-by running through the system, it's still a good idea to have a catch can in place just to catch that, so you can have that peace of mind that your engine is going to be running optimal for a long period of time. So however, even stock cars can have this issue, which mine did. So I picked up my car from the dealership with just over 13,000 miles, and when I was checking out the car, I started it up just to let it idle before we go for a test drive to warm it up, and I noticed that the RPMs at idle were kind of dipping down. And I brought that up to the sales lady. I was like, why is this happening? I'm about to buy this car, what's going on? And she's like, oh no, don't worry about it. And I was like, all right, it ran fine other than that little issue. So I just disregarded that because the car is certified pre-owned, it's under warranty. Anything were to happen, I can get the whole engine replaced if need be. But that's not the case, so I ended up learning about this down the line. So it wasn't a huge issue at first, it wouldn't happen all the time, but it gradually started becoming more and more of a problem, especially when I filled up like a full tank of gas for some reason. I don't know, that caused the RPMs to dip down when I was at an idle or was at like a stoplight, and then it just, like I said, gradually got worse over time. Like the car was to the point where it was like, I thought it was gonna shut off on me. So that was like concerning to me, and Ben reassured me, yeah, it's just like the diaphragm that blew. So he was able to replace all these parts under warranty at BMW. Shout out to the GOAT. So with that part breaking, like I said, it can lead to smoke coming out of your exhaust. It can lead to timing issues even, or like vacuum leak symptoms like I think I had. All right, now let's talk about the different options on rossrperformance.com, just so you guys can know what I bought and why. Pretty sleek, easy to navigate website. So he has the PCV breather V1 and V2. So the V2 adds another breather hole at the PCV cap, so that alleviates more crankcase pressure, and you would really only need that if you're running like a crazy horsepower number or like 30 plus PSI of boost. So you'd have to have like upgraded turbos and really be running some high numbers. So for my situation, I only needed the V1 kit and that'll be plenty, you know, for a stock or hybrid turbo setup, which I may do down the line. Let's go ahead and check that out. Show you the options I went with. So I went with turbo setup would be stock hybrid. A combo would be oil catch can combo. I wanted the catch can. That was like one of my main reasons with going with this. You know, I was going to buy a catch can separately, but then I also wanted, you know, the PCV breather kit so I could not run into potential PCV issues down the line. Oil catch can combo intake setup would be aftermarket, as I have the Turner Motorsport intake, so the system and the kit fit fine with that intake, so that's good to know. Oil catch can brace, going with the strut B1. So you'd have a different brace if you went with a different turbo setup. So if you had like a top mount or bottom mount, you know, big turbo, then it would come with a brace for the radiator. And then for the oil catch can breather adapter, I did get that as well. So that's a 5-foot hose. And what that does is it allows me to run the hose from the catch can down to the oil filter side of the engine. And that will vent all the fumes to the atmosphere down there, so it's out of the way of my cabin air filter. And so I'm not like constantly breathing in those fumes. And you know, the fumes, it's not much anyways. Like I didn't even notice them after I installed the kit. You know, if you have a catless downpipe or a high flow downpipe, you're gonna smell the exhaust way more. And you know, he does have a PDF guide for instructions, so you can click here, go ahead and pull up the instruction guide. There you have it. But for me, you know, I'm more of a visual learner. I like to see things, how they're done, and then do them that way, especially with this kit coming with a lot of different options. So if you go with this kit, I hope this install video helps you. But before we get to the install, I want to also say that be very careful with threading on all of the threads. Just be sure that you're taking your time. You know, don't rush anything and screw up one of the threads. Yeah, just take your time, make sure you do it correctly, and it's really easy install. One more thing I will say, make sure you put in the drain plug to the oil catch can before you mount it. I didn't do that, and it was way harder to put that drain plug up in the bottom of the catch can after it was mounted in the car, because you had to like reach down under it, so make sure you do that before you mount it. So enough talking, let's get into the install. So first we need to remove this PCV cap. We'll just use a trim tool. We'll go around prying up. So there are 3 clips, like one here, 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 and here. So like on each side. There we go. That'll come out with your diaphragm right here. As you can see, there's a little bit of oil, but this is usually what blows. So we can take out this spring. All right, now we got our Ross Racing PCV cap, and I just have a little bit of lube on my finger, so I'm just gonna rub this over the O-rings just to make sure it goes in easier. All right, you wanna make sure that the logo is facing towards the front of the car, and then that the O-rings go into the middle, like so. Make sure it goes in there nice and tight. And you should hear an audible click, so I didn't hear one, so I'm just gonna go ahead and smack it. There we go. All right, now we wanna take our set screws for this PCV cap. They are very small, so you have to be very careful that you do not lose them. And I just went ahead and threaded them in without the cap on the car, just so that we can make sure that the threads are good. And you want to try to get these in as straight as possible because you don't want to screw up these threads. And to make this easier, you probably want to go ahead and remove this engine oil cap just so it's out of your way. And definitely do not drop the screw in your engine oil compartment. Go ahead and start it by hand. Found that was easiest. Just get it snug. All right, now to get to the back of this cap, we're gonna have to remove this line, or at least move it out of the way. So we can do that by putting these tabs, pushing them to the side. That will lift up. Now for this clip, you just want to use a flathead screwdriver. So you can break that loose, and you can move these out of your way, so that we can get that pick tool straight on. All right, get started by hand. I'm like laying on my car. Only way to get a good angle. Yeah, this one's definitely harder to get to. And then I do have this noise dampening still in the way for the high pressure fuel pump, so that's not helping. We got both set screws in, so we go ahead and put these back into place. All right, now we just need to loosen these 13mm bolts, and they'll be on here pretty tight. Now we'll take our catch can brace, and that works just perfect where I can still have the foam deadening in there. Not bad, not bad. All right, so now we're ready to bolt up the catch can. We have these screws, comes with 3 washers and an 11mm bolt. So we need the screw with 1 washer. We'll go ahead and put that through the backside. Be careful, you don't want to drop these washers, as we already did, but thankfully they're magnetic. So we're able to grab it. But you want to put another washer sandwiched right there. And then put our catch can. My fitting is pretty tight, so I'm just gonna want to have to maneuver it in there. All right, so we got that kind of fitted on there. We can take our other washer, put that in, and then our 11mm, just start it by hand. All right, and then you'll have this hose down here. You have to kind of like push it out of the way. And we got a pretty tight fit, but that's precision. Yeah, so we had to use help my brother. So have one person like push the hose out of the way and then line it up the catch can so that we can get that bolt through. That was pretty necessary, at least for me. But you know what? We forgot a washer. Boom. Now get our other washer. We got our 3 in there. We can start our 11mm by hand. Yeah, it definitely helps to do this when the car is cool. Now we can go ahead and tighten up these bolts. Get nice and snug. All right, now we're gonna go ahead and disconnect this hose.
The 2 knurled marks would be one on the top, one on the bottom. Those are gonna be your grabbing points. Those are where we're gonna wanna squeeze. Nowhere else other than those knurled marks. It can be kind of tough sometimes. Give it a little wiggle. And pull it off.
It's funny because my brother pulled this off perfectly the first time. We just wanted to show you guys how it's done, and it broke the clip. But it happens, but it doesn't matter because we're going to cap it off with this anyways. So this is going to slide over like so. This is a high temp silicone fitting. So we'll slide that over, and this literally just sits right here out of the way. I'll take this hose now, fit it up in here. We already lubed these O-rings, and then we'll attach this to a little catch can. It's probably easier to remove this intake, but I'm going to try to finagle it without doing that. Yep, just like that. That should be good there. Now I'll probably need a wrench for this just so I can get it more secure. Now we went ahead and lubed up these O-rings in here. Slide this on. That's in there. And then there's 4 set screws right here as well. I'm gonna go ahead and screw on the other hose that's going to run all my ventilation down through the oil filter side. All right, so now we have our hose running down through there, attached to our oil catch can. So it's gonna sit right there. And now obviously we can't put the engine cover back on, probably won't fit unless we make some cutouts for these hoses and the catch can itself. And put a little bit of lube on this O-ring right here. All right, now we do still need to put the set screws in here. I'm gonna go ahead and tighten this down. And once again, you do want to be careful with these set screws. You want to make sure that you're threading them in straight on. And it's always a good idea to go ahead and thread them beforehand, just to make sure you're not stripping into these threads. It's a lot easier to go ahead and remove this connection to put in the set screw. So we're over here learning as we go. All right, we got it all buttoned up. Made sure, went over everything. Alrighty guys, that's gonna wrap it up for this video. All in all, you really don't have to do these modifications. If it's not broke, don't fix it. But I wanted to do these mods. You know, I wanted to do the catch can before, but I might as well do the catch can with the PCV breather system so that I can make the engine a little bit more bulletproof and not have to deal with that issue ever again. You know, now I have that peace of mind that my engine's gonna be running more optimally for a longer period of time. You know, my car is tuned, stage 2+, and I run ethanol mixes occasionally, probably most of the time now. But I am planning on going on a long trip here soon, so stay tuned for that. And I just wanted my engine, you know, to be a little bit more bulletproof. I don't have to deal with that when I'm out of town. So that's why I wanted it, you know, mainly for the peace of mind. So I hope this video was informative for you and it helped you in your install process. If so, go ahead and smash the like button, hit subscribe to stay tuned for future content, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Peace out.